and welcome to World Blockchain Roundtable. Today it's a table for two.
Hey,
Andrew, how are you?
not bad. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for joining me today. Oh gosh, we got dogs breaking in. So it's just going to be you and I today. I think we'll see how that
All
goes.
right.
We'll be able to get a word in edgewise this way.
Right. I can
No.
totally understand. Hey,
All right, so let me read through last week's episode. This is the 273rd episode of World Blockchain Roundtable. It's just me and Andrew today. And last week was the BIP 110 soft fork conversation, and each host from last week will receive 100 lot, and each topic contributor from last week will get 150. So last week's theme was suggested by I Am for I Am, the one and only Emperor, and he will receive an additional 150 lot.
who let the lot out?
That's a lot. Yeah, that's great. That means the episode was shown a lot. So that's kind of how that measure kicks in. Let's see here. Ownership tokens come with perpetual passive income, free edits, and governance votes. Couple notes here from our producer says that to make sure that you go to Den.Social and it's time for September theme suggestions, and make sure you submit before Monday, August 17th. And the theme of the week this week is AI creators. Oh man. Blockchain royalties equal the future of work. Oh, this is so up I Am's alley. I wish he was here.
Right.
But I'm sure he left us some good questions. Let's see. Where are my questions? I'm on the wrong tab. Sorry, guys.
You're fine.
Oh, yeah. To start off, I Am did kind of give an update on that BIP 110, since that's what we talked about last week. And I don't know. Were you following this, Andrew?
I mean, just passively. I knew about it from X and stuff like that, but no, I didn't like actively. I was under the impression it wasn't going to be too successful, considering the content of the discussion.
Yeah, it's kind of that. How much censorship do we want and all of those kind of things. Oh my goodness.
Right. Uh-oh. Hey, it happened. Sorry. I got 5 dogs.
I'm by myself and doing the best I can over here. Thank goodness Andrew's here with me. So just an update. It says that the proposal to temporarily limit non-financial data like ordinals on Bitcoin failed. Miner support stayed under 3%, and this is far short of the 55% threshold that's required. A tiny minority chain forked. Oh, it did. Okay. Oh, but stalled after only 2 blocks. And the main network continued unaffected. So the next
chug.
I know. The next challenge to, I guess these are like tests really for the sustainability of Bitcoin. The eCash hard fork. Now that's the one that there's a little more support for, isn't it?
I believe so.
The eCash. Okay. This hard fork of Bitcoin is led by Paul Stork and Layer 2 Labs. It creates a new separate chain that copies Bitcoin ledger and activates drive chains. I don't know what that is. To enable, side chains. Okay. Bitcoin itself is left completely unaffected, and eCash will be a Layer 1 with Bitcoin's code allowing for Layer 2. So similar to Litecoin, I guess. That'll be interesting to see what happens with that. I don't know how much support that's got out there.
Well, it's it really just, I suppose some people are saying it's just a cash grab, and other people are saying, they're legitimate and they're gonna. It's always gonna be a long term, observation. If something's successful,
time will tell.
Just because the price goes down doesn't mean that the commitment isn't there.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. Sean always says Bitcoin will be most used when it goes to zero. So
Right. I believe that's true.
maybe that's where we're going. I did think it was really interesting, which is kind of a current event thing, but we'll get into the questions. That when what's his name, Rand Paul went to the Fort Knox, and then
Yeah.
once he was there for 3 hours, he said um, he talked about how much was there. I think now I'm gonna probably get it wrong. Anyway, he mentioned Bitcoin. He measured it. They measured it in USD, and they measured it in, well, how much Bitcoin would that be? And
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of some foreshadowing, maybe. So,
Right. I'm sure it's on YouTube. We'll probably pull it up and play it because I didn't get a chance to see that.
um,
But we'll do
it's
that
his,
later.
yeah, it's his tweet. So I'll see if I
Yeah.
can find it later. But
Okay.
well, let's jump into the questions about AI. So, question: if AI tools could help you create art, music, or writing much faster, how would you feel about getting paid automatically every time somebody uses or shares your work using blockchain technology? Hmm.
Uh, do you want to go first or?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Well, I mean, I know there's been a lot of discussion about this over the years called copy left. It's where you have copyrighted work, but you open source it, and
Oh,
so that as long as people have the distribute the license, the copy left license, they can modify it as they see fit, and it's free to use for anybody. And at that point, they can make an adjustment. And I can see how you could kind of implement that with the payment system. With if you've used this and uh, maybe even modified it, you want to tip the person who did the initial work or the work that you picked up that was somebody else had adjusted. Uh, you can go ahead, kind of like WinRAR. Like they say, you have to pay for it to use it, but no one's ever actually paid for WinRAR. And it's free to use, even though it's like we're totally cool, bro. Just make sure you pay me, and then never get paid.
and then nobody pays them.
It's more like a tip.
I
Yeah.
see. Okay. Well, no tax on tips, so that's probably a positive thing.
Right.
What's interesting to me is I've been working with Marco on, we're building stuff with Reggie's patents and using those tools to kind of do some of this. I don't know how the AI part would work into it, but it's very much so Reggie had written a white paper about proof of productive effort, and you sign in with your wallet. And so if somebody buys something or exchanges energy with you on your tier, or something you created on the site, then
Yeah.
your wallet is like your ID, or so
Yeah.
it's definitely possible. It's happening. And then adding the AI to it, I think a lot of people are using AI now for their writing.
It's the current trend. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, like Mom wrote 3 books over time, and we're using AI to kind of transfer them into a digital format, and they're going to be available on vetest.app, which I think is kind of cool. So I still think it takes a human to
Yeah.
write the prompt or have the core thought or idea direction. But I guess they are having, things where like the AI broke out or whatever. And
I've heard about that. Yeah.
yeah, so it kind of goes rogue a little bit.
Well, I mean, they had this social media network for AI robots and stuff like that a little while ago, and I mean, I could see AI writing prompts for other AIs, and it just
Yeah.
constantly feeds into each other. That'd be interesting to see what happens at there, because there was also like a AI Seinfeld show. It wasn't really
Okay.
Seinfeld, but it was like it was constantly streaming and constantly adjusting itself, and
Interesting.
it was on like YouTube for a little bit, and then it got copyright struck, and then it went on to like all other alternative platforms like Rumble and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I could definitely see it. My view about it would be narrow, right? Because I'm only talking about one specific thing, but AI's the general premise of AI is very broad.
Hmm.
It can do a lot of really good things, do a lot of really bad things. It really just depends on how things develop.
Right, it's just a tool and can be used for good or evil, kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
Like all of them.
Yeah.
Interesting. But
Hey,
it does bring up
uh,
the, getting automatically paid because AI is basically scraping what humans have already created to bring knowledge or uh, whatever back to the core project. Um, so the fact of or talking about getting paid, I guess as I'm just thinking about how IM's been talking about like when we have a post labor economy and getting paid in micropayments. Basically, they if they are infringing, if they are using your IP to solve their problem, it would make sense to have like a license, like you were saying earlier,
yeah.
or something, paying that fee or tipping or however that is, if it was useful. I think that's interesting. Maybe that's.
I've heard you. This is unrelated, kind of related. You mentioned like Reggie's patents and stuff like before. I know
Mhm.
that Joe was talking about. I'm not sure if he's done it yet or not. You have to forgive me. Uh, Taking his uh, Dragon Chain patents and put them on blockchain for people to buy and share and stuff like that. Has Reggie thought about anything like that?
I don't know. I have to talk to him. I know with so with the VE test, when you purchase something, you get a receipt and it shows which patents were used for the transaction. And like me as a seller pay, only the IP fees that I use, and then the purchaser pays only the fees that apply to them. But it breaks it all out on the like a receipt, and so it's an education piece as well, which um, I guess that is on blockchain because you can go to base scan and see the transaction, um,
Yeah,
and so you'd see where all that
block
goes.
share and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
It's pretty wild that they have like PDFs of transactions now. You know,
Really?
yeah. At
Oh,
least
you
it
mean
wasn't block share
okay?
when I was using it a while ago.
Huh? I haven't heard of blockchain. I'm not familiar with that.
It's just another blockchain, but it does multiple blockchains.
Oh, okay.
So and like Etherscan and Bitcoin Core, Bitcoin Cash, stuff like it, all in one.
All on one. Interesting. Be a lot of traffic, I would think.
Yeah.
Um, that's kind of cool. Um, okay, next question. Oh, we only have three. Okay, this one's also from IAM. For IAM.
Okay.
Question: looking 5 years ahead, what does a thriving AI creator plus blockchain royalties ecosystem look like for the average independent worker? And what can creators do now to prepare?
Well, do you want me to go again, or do you
Yeah.
want to go
What do
first?
you think? Yeah.
Okay. Well, AI creator and royalties. Let's start with the AI creator. There's a lot of people up in the air about this AI uh, automated like Uber service and stuff like that. I could see the way things are going that people using services like that automatically, they could they can integrate different content into that kind of ecosystem,
Hmm.
and that depends on how much you use the service and uh, what kind of content's being integrated. You could get royalties either to the person who owned Waymo, I think is the name of the service,
Oh, yeah.
or the person who's using it. Like, I mean, there are people like for me when I was living in Knoxville, there was times where I didn't have a car,
Hmm.
and I didn't want to miss work because I'm the kind of guy that if I'm say I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
So I'd like take an Uber and stuff like that for like 4 hours of work because at the time I was only working part time.
Yeah.
But you know, if you're using that constantly, and it's pretty cheap for you, I can see the royalties, being integrated into that ecosystem, especially if you're going pretty close nearby
Mhm.
uh, to your work or wherever you're going to the doctors or the hospital, uh, or the grocery store. Sorry about that. But yeah, just that kind of thing, that kind of integration would be
Mhm.
something I could see it could be thriving.
Yeah, because 5 years, just I think with the addition of AI, things are moving so fast in that space. Where typically, we had hardware to build originally with computers, and that was slowed the development. And then once they started changing and just having to write software, then it moved a little bit faster. And it seems like now innovation is even faster. I mean, if you don't pay attention in a space and they're using AI tools, it is leaps and bounds ahead within days. Um,
Yeah.
so I think 5 years, I can't even imagine what it's going to be like.
Well, you also have to remember there's a boom bust cycle with any of these technologies. Things fall out of fashion for a while, and then come back into play, and
That's
something else
true.
comes up in between that. So you keep that
That's
in
true.
mind.
Yeah, if you
5 years.
go ahead.
Does seem 5 years does seem like a long time from now, but you also, like I said, you have to keep that in mind. Is that it may not be the focus for the whole 5 years.
That's a great point. When you're saying that, I was thinking about NFTs. Everybody thought NFTs were going to save the world, and then they haven't been used. Oh, look who's here!
Hey
Welcome.
guys,
Hey,
sorry it
You're
took me a while to get here. I had a
oh,
it's all right.
crazier morning than usual. So
You're as crazy as I am.
you're you're good. So we were just answering the second question. I don't know if you want to give your opinion on the first one,
yeah,
or
what was the first one?
okay. The first one says if AI tools could help you create art, music, or writing much faster, how would you feel about getting paid automatically every time someone uses or shares your work using blockchain technology?
I'd feel pretty good about that. That'd be pretty sweet. What'd be even more awesome in my mind is if AI were not a tool and it could also get rewarded
Oh,
using the technology for you rather than like you having to do it.
yeah,
It could just take your inspiration, run with it, and then send you a check, or essentially send you a check on the blockchain.
yeah,
Have
interesting.
you have you ever thought about that? We don't do check like instruments on blockchain, but we could.
You could. How could you?
It's an idea.
Oh, like an escrow.
Like what if you transferred instead of tokens, a token that constituted ownership of a wallet? We actually built one of those once,
Interesting.
way back in the day at Open Relay, like the company before Rivet. We called it what did we call that thing? The tagline was going to be "Put a wallet in your wallet." We found a way to make an NFT carry access rights to do stuff in wallet, and if you sent that thing around, it would be like sending a wallet instead of sending tokens.
That's pretty cool.
So it'd be kind of like sending a check, right? You have to
Yeah.
cash it in order to get it.
You'd have to have the keys to open it.
Right. So you get the access rights to some amount within
Uh-huh.
an existing wallet, and it's like getting a right to cash a check.
Hmm.
Because like it doesn't have to give you all access; it can give you the right to open the wallet and take only what you're owed, or whatever.
So I think they're doing that on V test right now. I'd have to talk. I need to
That's
ask.
a neat idea, isn't it?
Yeah, if they're using
I don't know
Reggie's.
why that just popped up into memory, but
Reggie's patents are that H time lock,
hmm
whatever,
yeah,
um,
yeah. Oh, actually, that's a great idea.
similar to a escrow or something. And so two people are peer to peer connecting, but the funds don't get released unless they're
Right, and
satisfied.
an escrow of zero amounts of time with zero
Mm,
satisfaction criteria other than you're bearing the thing that says you're owed. Make it exactly like a check. That's interesting.
that is an interesting thought. Hmm. Um, good answer. Good answer.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to catch you up. Question number 2. This one was hard for me. Looking 5 years ahead, what does a thriving AI creator and blockchain royalty ecosystem look like for the average independent worker? And what should creators do now to prepare?
Well, I think the number one thing. Have you guys already answered this, or is this my turn?
Yes.
I answered.
Yeah,
Do
I
you want me to-
answered mostly that, like, I can't even imagine what 5 years ahead, because the space moves so fast. I don't even
Cool.
know.
Well, I think I can actually talk to this one because I've been working on what I think is likely to end up being the next generation of AI. And when I say that, I don't mean like I'm going to be the only one doing it. I think the thing that I'm working on is ultimately going to shift the paradigm. Because what people think is AI right now is obviously not the same thing as intelligence, right?
Right.
And we're not going to stop evolving our understanding, but the existing sort of narrow AI paradigm is going to squeeze itself dry pretty soon. So people are going to start being forced to research in new directions. And as they do, because basically the entire first AI revolution, I don't know if you guys are familiar with, well, let me give you an example of a guy's name, Marvin Minsky, who's familiar, the early cyberneticists. These guys did most of the research, Boltzmann back in the 50s.
Oh,
Another
wow.
example.
Okay.
These guys did a lot of the early research in feed-forward neural networks that are the basis of everything that we've discovered in the AI revolution. The AI revolution it began around 2014, mostly because compute caught up with theory, not because there was some new discovery. We had all these ideas that we just didn't have computers powerful enough to try it on. And we've kind of plowed through most of those ideas, right? So now it's time for some original research, and there's not much left in the well because those guys were brilliant. Boltzmann has, equation headline space with Albert Einstein. Those guys were geniuses. So what do we do next is the question,
Yeah.
right? And I think next AI is going to become a lot more person-like, because right now the number one thing that you can tell me about AI that is not true is that it can carry itself forward. It can live in the moment. It can do stuff without you having to tell it to do stuff. The illusion that it's doing that has largely been created by middleware automation. That is going to fade. So in 5 years, it's going to look a lot more like you've got a collaborator acting in parallel than it is like you've got a thing you can prompt or a button you can hit that makes it do stuff. So when I think about blockchain royalties, I think it's going to be a system both used and managed by both people and artificial minds.
So like a business partner that's always in your
counterpart living in cyberspace.
Interesting.
Counterfactual. Here we go.
So that's what I think is going to happen. And I think blockchain is going to be really a vital tool for those cyberspace level minds, because it's one of the only places you can go to get firm finality.
Oh, that's
right.
Yeah, for truth. I mean, we think about Dragon Chain's project with Eternal, and
right.
Again,
even a super intelligent AI won't be able to cheat the math of the blockchain because it doesn't get to defy physics. So yeah, so it's going to use it. And I think blockchain royalties are going to do a lot to both have artificial minds that start to do their own thing with their own capital, as well as pay out royalties to people who help them get ideas from human space, right?
Where they
Because
get
that's the one that gives us leverage over artificial minds too, right? Because humans control keys that they can't break. So as long as we are in blockchain space rather than completely practically unencrypted, completely unsafe Swift systems, even in a hostile AI world, people on blockchains are going to be better situated. But if it's our ally, then you can count on those royalties being massively parallel and probably available to anybody with a good idea. You make a cool prompt that turns into a thing, you might start getting royalties.
Right. Yeah, because you don't have to be able to know how to do the thing. You have to create an idea.
You give the artificial mind a good idea, it'll probably credit you by paying you part of its take. That's my imagination. It's like, imagine you come up with a clever prompt on ChatGPT and next week you start getting a check. That's how I imagine it working.
Interesting.
That'd be kind of wild.
Yeah. Paid for thinking. That would change society so much to be
We'd stop losing all the good ideas everybody has every day.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you don't get paid for ideas, you get paid for fruition and making
Mhm.
things happen. And
Yeah, actually, that'd be cool. I think maybe it'll ultimately turn ideas into themselves payable on delivery, right? Like if you come up with a great idea and the system can realize it, then you've provided something of value that you could be paid for right there in the moment to incentivize it.
so, do
Just
you
a
think
thought.
that Andrew brought up a good point, talking about how a lot of these cycles, there's the boom bust. Do you see
Mhm.
there being a bust, a boom and a bust for AI?
I think that the pattern will still persist, but I think things happen so fast now. Like, we had crypto winters and they would last for literally like a season. And this is
Mhm.
like around 2018, 2019, right? We had this idea of crypto winter. And then sometime around the mid 2020s, like 2023, 2024-ish, I don't know if you guys started to notice, but it felt like we came in and out of winters all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden it's up and all of a sudden it's down. It became fractional to the seasonal level, right? So like a month would be a downturn, and then winter would be over and we'd be back at it or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
it's sort of a time compression that Ray Kurzweil predicted. As AI evolves faster, as our technology improves, it tends to accelerate itself because people use the tools that they've just invented to build the next generation of tools.
Yeah. Well,
This,
the volatility, in any kind of market is only so much. It eventually dries up, at least for a
yeah,
while.
right. So what I'm suggesting is not that we're not going to have recessions, but that they're going to happen so fast we might not notice.
Wow. That's kind of wild to think about, that it would
Yeah,
happen, within a
right.
day
Like,
or hours or, um,
right. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you imagine the way like human beings think in, I think the smallest interval of time we can think in is 33 milliseconds or something like that, practically. Like we can think about smaller times, but we have to use tools to measure it rather than our own, eyes for change.
mhm,
Beyond that point, like I think you can track up to 33 milliseconds worth of activity before you need something to help, before you start losing it.
33 minutes.
So that is not a very fast clock speed, right? Like a
Mhm,
computer chip in 1998 was bragging about how was it how many, it's like they had the first megahertz machine, the first Intel megahertz machine, and then they hit gigahertz before they realized you couldn't scale it any higher, and stuff.
mm,
And at that point you have this clock speed on thinking that is so fast, and if it can notice perceptible change at that rate, then the amount of time that it takes for us to experience the world and the amount of time it experiences in that same period could be like the difference between a year and a day, right? I think they touched on that concept in Her, where she left him at the end because she just couldn't handle all the eons of silence between his slow ass thoughts, right? Like that was the idea.
interesting.
So
Well,
picture an economy operating at that speed. Recessions might happen in between moments when humans can even perceive recessions, right? Like it could be like the market's up, the market's down, the market's up, it's down 1,000 times. It's been 5 years worth of subjective time in the AI's world. And here we are 33 milliseconds later, noticing only that the graph moved a tiny blip.
and who knows what would happen while we're sleeping.
Right. Oh, yeah. When we're sleeping, it's like
And,
whole new civilizations of AI emerge.
right.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah,
wild.
I never thought to look up how what the shortest amount of time it took us for like focus on thinking. That's kind of wild.
Yeah. What I'm seeing in my own research right now, not to spoil it too much, but is that the clock speed can be hypothetically the floor, like this, or the ceiling for any given subjective time moments, like one fluctuation of the processor on a megahertz or gigahertz or terahertz scale. That's a moment of
Yeah,
time. So,
man, I want a CPU with
if
terahertz.
there's thousands of those in a second, then there are thousands of moments that an AI can perceive in 1 second.
Yeah,
So AI is like rewriting time, or the perception of time.
Mm, exploiting a thing about time that's always been there that we
Exploiting.
just didn't realize was going on.
Interesting. Very interesting. I can't wait to see what you're working on too. That's
It's almost done.
okay.
I'm putting the touches on it. The first version sort of shared interface between the intelligence and anything else that you want to connect it with.
Cool. That's very cool. Okay, we have one more question. Let's see. from for I am, of course. Question: what are the biggest technical, legal, or adoption hurdles preventing widespread use of blockchain royalties for AI generated or AI assisted content today?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first?
One of
I
you
mean,
guys.
you I'll go first. I
Okay.
think it really depends on the ecosystem that you're in. Like in the United States, it's very prestigious legal system. There's a lot of rubbing hands and grift work and backroom deals,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're gonna attempt to influence the sway of the technology, at least from the United States point of view, and maybe other Western
Mhm.
countries. Uh, but you have to remember this is a international technology. There's no central point of failure here because the way that it's geared, it's software developed and it's open source. So from a legalistic point of view, it's positive law. People trying to force a very specific perspective about how the technologies work. I think that's a big hurdle. Uh, but like I said, there's international. So I like the way that like Monero's developed. Is that it's literally like it's anonymous basically, and I mean they know who some of the developers are, probably
Mhm.
because some of them are like intelligence operators and stuff like that. But it's there's not you can't influence it in the same way because
Yeah.
there's not a central development
Uh,
team that can be
True.
attracted.
Though it is pretty easy to guess who's probably involved with it based on like who does what in crypto more broadly. Like you have to imagine that it was pretty flagrantly obvious that when they figured out uh, who was going to do the first Zcash setup ceremony for a private verifier node, that one of them ended up being Snowden. Like you can probably look around the world and see who's positioning themselves to be that kind of advocate. Although there may be some quiet people who just don't want to let on that they're on the on sort of team individual as opposed to team institutions control individuals.
Yeah.
Interesting. Greg, so what do you think about the biggest technical, legal, or adoption hurdles?
Technical, I think we're the biggest hurdle is probably going to be trying to figure out a way to do blockchains that allow for the massive throughput that the original Ethereum world computer promised, right? The idea behind hyper quadratic sharding and stuff like that, where you could have an Ethereum blockchain that represented one world state that could also run thousands of versions of CryptoKitties while not slowing the network down or bogging it up with fees, right?
Yeah.
That was the original idea, that it could just be like it could scale by adding nodes, and if you needed more compute, you just added more nodes, and that was that, right? We know it doesn't work like that, not yet, but I think we need to figure out how to make it work like that, and I do think it's possible. So getting back on the ambitious plan of trying to make the settlement of the chain happen, uh, not just in one single monolithic line, but in parallel, massive parallel with everybody who's using it. And if you have to build back a single monolithic chain, that should be a visualization of it after it's been built, as opposed to the way that it constructs itself. You know, and I think that's the biggest technical hurdle. I think not. I know we're not supposed to talk about Dragon Chain on here, but I think Joe's answer to this question is actually pretty good.
The
And
multiple
people should pay closer attention to what Dragon Chain has built, because I think it's actually a really smart architecture for this particular problem. Yeah, I mean, honestly, they don't have problems with it, and yeah, you can argue that the way that it's set up right now requires too much centralization, but that's not how it's built, right? That's how it's built now. It could evolve
Yeah.
that way, and that was always the plan.
to more distribution. Are you thinking
Yeah,
of more of a distributed? Yeah.
just holding regular usability as a constraint that you have to meet in the design spec, right? That's not something that blockchains could originally get away with. but just because the technology was so new. But I think it's about time we started challenging ourselves as an industry to actually evolve the tech to a new stage of capability, because people are getting tired of what we built in 2014, and AIs are going to be way too fast for that. They won't find it useful at all if they have to wait, what amounts to 20 decades of their subjective time
Right.
over the 10 minutes it takes for a block to settle.
Right.
It's not gonna be their favorite tool. They're gonna wonder why people waste their time on it.
Do you
But
think that's going to make it too advanced where it will have adoption hurdles, or is it going to be easier to use as it becomes
I think
more?
right now it just means we get a lot of different blockchains for different purposes, right?
Mm.
Just like we have, right? Everybody has to do a different thing because one blockchain can't handle everything, or one protocol can't handle everything anyway.
Or isn't
But
the best?
it does force us to build layers of glue between chains that,
Yes.
Like a
right
mesh
now
network.
right now it's kind of manageable, but after we get to a point, it's going to be impossible to handle. We're going to have tooling to manage the tooling to manage the tooling that handles the blockchain if we're going to keep going this way, right? Um, it's the classic factory problem. I don't know if that's a nod to a website that you can go to. It's like factory.com or .net or something like that. Tells a funny story that's salient about stuff developer nerds care about. But the idea being that we always end up creating tools to manage tools to manage tools, and that it ends up becoming out of hand. You want to go to the grocery store, or you want to go to the hardware store and get a wrench, and instead you have to buy a wrench factory because they don't sell wrenches anymore.
Right.
Man,
They only sell factories that make different kinds of wrenches.
but not the one you need.
No, they had to make a separate factory to make wrench factories of different
Oh, I
types, and then they needed a factory for that. Right, that's the whole story. So you have a factory for factories that make wrenches.
Perfect.
Novelty grills. Just kidding.
You're good. You're good.
Anybody count how many times we've said factory on this episode so far?
It's like matter. It matters. Okay, so what are the biggest? I don't know what the biggest hurdle is, but I know having starting a new platform with my friend Marco and getting the adoption. People do not want to move into new things unless it's painful, and maybe that's going to be tied in with the hefty legal system that we have, that maybe it does get painful enough that people choose something different. But
yeah, I was actually reading an article on Mises the other day because that gets to legal, so I didn't touch on that. And it was talking about how sort of, actually, I lost my train of thought. What were you saying before?
we were talking about the legal, how people might be forced to, because adoption is such an issue, getting people to do something new.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. So there was this article talking about on Mises the other day that birth rates being down in places where the cost of housing or where zoning regulations were high, and so the cost of housing was especially high. And went through this litany of different situations that the government can impose upon different places, and depending on how that place is governed, the birth rate's lower or higher. It drew a correlation between, like, it's really hard to buy land here, it's really hard to do this here, and the likelihood that people are going to have kids based on the local birth rates, right? Like they're like 2.1 is a replacement rate, and anything below that is decline. It kind of starts to look like what we're doing is adding government regulatory power, and it's reducing our capacity to do other stuff. Not just have kids, but maybe innovate with blockchains and AI, for example. But they're already talking about, and the shitty thing about it is it kind of seems like the right click brigade people are the ones who wrote the 2018 killing blockchain regulation, and then now I've got all the people who hate AI slop, right?
Right.
Out there suggesting that the only answer to that is AI regulated. It's like, are we really going to throttle every great technology that we ever come up with? I mean, the last time we should have figured this out when they decided to regulate the shit out of drone delivery, and we still don't have that now. That could have been flying in 2016.
Yeah, but they're pushing flying cars. I'm like, you didn't even let that
Right.
pass.
So you can have flying delivery drivers instead of freaking automated delivery that doesn't cost what it costs to pay a Teamster, you know?
Mhm. Well, and that's to Andrew's comment about, shaking hands and backroom deals and all
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't think people realize how much like forcing more people into the supply chain drives up the cost of the thing you're buying. Like if you have people doing the thing as a requirement because technology is not allowed, and you have people required to oversee them and people required to oversee the overseers, you've put a tax on the entire supply chain. And it happens at every point. There's an administrative stack. That's
Yeah.
something I think technically isn't a problem, but legally and adoption wise is probably a major problem, because how are you supposed to do anything new if the second there's an incumbent, the first thing they do is run for a protective moat based in DC, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny you was talking about that Mises article. I mean, I didn't. It wasn't an article. I just randomly looked it up. Uh,
Mhm.
it's related to this. It's a little dark, but I was on Grok and I was just looking up like stuff about Russia and stuff like that,
Mhm.
and it. I was wondering what the uninstall rate, let's put it that way, was in Russia compared to the rest of the world, and
Hmm.
starting in the '60s and stuff like that. They started kind of opening up about it, and it was like
Okay.
it was pretty significant. Let's just put it that way. So I can see where people being managed and not having options, how that would negatively affect not just the birth rate, but the people trying to
Right.
maintain their existence.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at blockchain technology right now. We're still waiting on a return to the economic activity of 2017,
Yeah,
because allegedly someday they're going to pass the Clarity Act, and it's going to make it, lawful again for the average person to figure out the path through that. But the path through that before was show up at a hackathon and have fun while you learn something new. And if that's not the new plan, it won't work.
yeah,
That's the curiosity, though, that I mean, so many normies just don't want to do something new. They don't want to learn something new. They
Well,
want
right.
and my
and
question is, how much of that is a curiosity tax imposed by authority?
mm. So if that was removed,
Yeah,
then maybe it would remove.
lower to no regulation, what people call the Wild West days of crypto, were also the easiest days to get into it, and the result was a lot of people were in it.
There was a lot of momentum in a short period of time. That's for sure.
Yeah,
That's a good point. So if it was put back in the Wild West, which I mean, we're looking at Japan selling off treasuries. I mean, the
right,
dollar's in trouble. Um, all of
right,
that forced
and
into
right now
into
AI keeps getting better, better too.
transaction.
Sorry,
No, go ahead.
no, you were saying it. You
I was
please
just saying
finish.
if people are forced into, or not forced, but released to transact in other ways without the fear of the regulation, without that tax, it probably
Right,
would remove that hurdle.
right. Who's going to make a blockchain game in 2026 when the game requires a marketplace in the game world where tokens are exchanged, right? Like, if you do that, it looks like you're creating an exchange with a video game around it.
And then you
But
have
in
business.
reality, that might be the marketplace stall in your new RPG or whatever. Like, how are you
Mm.
going to build that in this regulatory environment? You're not, right? The right click brigade wins. Blockchain puts on a suit and tie and goes to work for IBM, right? That's the version of it that we're getting from asking for the Clarity Act before we start building. Um, and that thing may never come, right? The Clarity Act may be one of those things that gets put off and put off and put off until it doesn't happen.
Well, meanwhile, China is,
Yeah,
or to Andrew's point, talking about Russia and whatever, these other countries that aren't putting those kind of regulations on people. I mean, that's where America will fall behind
yeah.
in innovation if we keep
Oh
stifling.
yeah. Well, and AI is another story there, right? Too. I was about to say next was the reason AI seems to get better every 5 minutes now, right?
Mhm.
Is in fact because nobody has figured out a way to force regulate the thing. And the
Mm.
second we do, you're going to get your first AI winter. all of the crypto winters were almost perfectly coincided with additional regulatory actions chilling the market.
Interesting. You think the Clarity Act will have that kind of effect on?
I think if we actually get it passed, it will help, but it will be tepid by comparison, lukewarm, weak tea, right? We
Well,
had the full-bodied black coffee version of what would happen if we started a blockchain revolution back in 2017. They silenced that thing and said, nope,
Yeah.
we're going to get you a Sanka.
well, they like to time, things being passed so they can put it in the news specifically during specific market cycle times.
Right. Well, I mean, and 5 years later, we're still waiting on that Sanka.
Yeah.
Like
Begging for it. Begging for it. Interesting. All right. Well, those are all of our questions. I don't know if you guys have any more questions yourself or topics around that idea of AI and blockchain.
We were talking about the thing about Rand Paul up in
hello.
Fort Knox.
Let me
I just lost.
see if I can find that. It was a tweet that he posted. Oh gosh, it's gonna make me sign in. I can probably put it up somewhere else. Let's see.
Let me see.
And that he was talking about, but they mentioned, Greg, you might have seen it. They mentioned
He had to step away. His computer problems.
oh, okay. Sorry, I can't see him. I'm on a different tab. Oh, there, I see back. Okay.
Yeah.
I can't scroll up. I don't want to let me. There we go. Here he is.
Hey, there I am. Sorry, my sound went away.
It took me a minute. Let's see if I can find it. Greg, you might have seen, did you see Rand Paul going to Fort Knox and all of that?
No, I didn't actually catch any of that. That's that. The last time I refreshed Zero Hedge was last night. So
okay. Okay. Yeah, things move fast, I guess. They went and they said, that the gold was there. They were only there for like 3 hours or whatever. But I'm trying to find this tweet that he put out that he measured some of it in Bitcoin. Oh, here. Is this the one? Gold, impressive. Da, 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 da.
by the way, I'm sure you guys all know about Zero Hedge, right? Zero Hedge.
I do.
The site. Anybody who doesn't know about that, gold for getting a decent aggregation of the news that doesn't include bullshit for the most part.
Yes. Real news.
They'll also include woke garbage, but like the woke garbage is there to entertain you in the comments section.
They're always here. They're always around. Now I can't find it. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
He had mentioned, talking about the dollar losing its purchasing power, and they're throwing around this affordability word, but it's really inflation. And he was talking about going back on the gold standard.
And activity chilling permission bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Crazy.
So he went to Fort Knox to see if they actually still have the gold there. I'm assuming.
Yes,
did they let him in?
Supposedly he was in there for 3 hours. And
let me in. Let me in. I know you got it.
When he came out, he said it's all there. And I wondered, how in the world would you be able to see and validate that much gold in 3 hours? So is it possible that they showed him an audit, possibly on blockchain, that he could trust, and that the audit had to be done? I don't know.
You would have to, if you really wanted to know for sure, check to make sure that none of the crates full of gold bricks or whatever, don't have a hollow core. How do you know for a fact that there aren't?
Yeah, you'd have to drill every one.
Yeah, exactly. There's like a box lined with gold bricks that includes an iron core of about the right weight to approximate the rest of it. If you wanted to rip somebody off like that in in a Merchant Ivory film, it would be an uncommon plot, right? Anybody could think of that idea. So, and you could even have one complete box full of complete gold bricks that you could show them and let them take apart, to keep them from looking further. So we can never really know, no. But I think Rand Paul's a pretty perceptive person. I would suspect that if his estimation was that, then it's either so bad that he can't freaking say it, which he's the guy who was calling Fauci out before it was fashionable. This guy wouldn't BS us if there wasn't anything in there, and they might have tried to trick him, but he's a pretty hard guy to trick.
I just don't know that once you get into the crypto world, it's trust, but don't trust, but verify or trust.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Right.
I guess the problem becomes, how do you link any movement of the thing that you're tracking on blockchain to the blockchain such that if it moves, you know for a fact that it's not there anymore, right? You would have to have some kind of maybe you could do this. Maybe you could have a conductance-based trigger, and it balances, at a certain amplitude on a stable sort of readout from some kind of electrometer or something like that. And you take one brick away and it triggers a blockchain transaction. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Integrate an Apple AirTag into each one. That'll work.
That's a great idea. They should AirTag all of them. They could probably trade one creative gold bricks for all the AirTags they need.
Well, what's crazy is the gold in Fort Knox. There was an article a while back that it's not of quality enough to be traded on the market.
Oh, so it's raw?
I guess.
It's probably just a bunch of jewelry.
It said that it's not the quality that that's traded on the market. So
it looks like a pirate treasure room.
It's a bunch
we just scrape the gold off of the motherboard so people get rid of.
I don't know.
I hope they have skulls and a decorative treasure chest in there at some point, like that. Or maybe like Scrooge McDuck's money bin. That would be sweet.
Time to go for a swim, boys.
Yeah.
Oh man, he was the one calling out Fauci, or one of them, and now we're seeing that. I cannot believe how many woke people on Facebook are saying I stand with Fauci when they black labeled it, and on top of it, now all those reports are coming out about the miscarriage rate, and that he knew it.
I know plenty of people who had miscarriages during that time period that attributed the miscarriage to that having gotten the shot, right? Well, and it's also pretty obvious, right? Like they're triggering not to get into the weeds with the medical terminology too much, but they're triggering cytokine storms. They know they're going to do that. That always has an effect on the entire body, including anything that's currently hooked to your body, because the placenta is still you, right? Like that's your body part. A cytokine storm's probably going there too. Yeah. It seems kind of obvious that you can disrupt a pregnancy by giving somebody a whole body immune shock.
Do you guys think that Fauci will be held with the bag, instead of truly big pharma being held accountable and the whole system having to pay the price, he'll be they're
going to burn him in effigy. He's going to be the scapegoat. It won't change any of the pharma stuff, right? They'll happily roast him at the stake, though. Yeah. I actually saw a piece of news yesterday that kind of suggests there may be something up with that. Nobody's really called this yet. But my suspicion is that they just convened a special grand jury in DC, which has never happened before. And the neat thing about it is the special grand jury is authorized to, if they all agree upon it, issue a report afterwards as to why they reached the conclusion they did. So imagine you put the question to a special grand jury, right? Like, is Fauci indictable for this? They analyze the whole thing. They issue a report that says, well, unfortunately, he's been pardoned, but here's the rest of the detail we surfaced that would have made it viable, right? You could issue a report then from a special grand jury that would detail all the details. and he would have nowhere to hide then, right? Because the question is he prosecutable for pleading the fifth? But if you ask that question, you have to have all the background, and a special grand jury will dig into the details.
Well,
So
and
we
it's
would get
my
the whole
understanding
story
that
blown open.
the states can still hold him accountable, just not that the pardon only goes towards federal charges.
Well, the problem is what we need is compulsory testimony, right? That's what we really need. I think because even if we can't get Fauci in jail, we can at least make him say the truth. And I think if we can make him say the truth in a forum where they write a report about it, then we can go ahead and have a trial of public opinion and screw the regular justice system.
That might save some lives.
Because something like that comes out, you start seeing all the details ironed out about how many how many bodies are owed to his vanity, essentially, and you start making it justifiable to abandon him even if you're on his side. And I think we can force that. I think they might be doing that with the special prosecutor in DC. I'm not sure, but
So I looked it up, and it says that the context was following the high-profile prosecutorial hurdles, public scrutiny, and a dropped vandalism case concerning the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool.
So maybe they're using it for those guys instead.
Maybe it.
Well, they should use it for Fauci if they're not gonna.
Yeah. It's interesting. So it says U.S. Attorney for D.C. Janine Pirro convened a rare, which I thought she quit or got fired or something.
She's gonna get fired probably. She hasn't been yet.
Convened a rare special grand jury in Washington in August 2026. Unlike regular grand juries, this 23-member body focuses on a single case or related matters and can issue a public report, like you said, even if it doesn't result in criminal charges.
Yeah. And the report is vetted too against a standard of proof. They're not allowed to release a report by default. They actually have to a certain percentage of them have to agree, and then they can release the report. So it's a report that's vetted as if it were an evidentiary conclusion, which is neat.
Well, it's a day late and a dollar short, but we're actually getting some kind of progress and keeping people accountable, at least to a degree. So yeah. I think it's important to keep in mind. I mean, it may just be temporary, just until the end of Trump, but this is probably something that's been in the works for a while before him.
Yeah,
it's the way that Washington works.
Yeah, are you saying like in the court of public opinion, at least?
Well, I think that's one form of pressure, but there might be behind the scenes pressure to actually make some sort of legalistic adjustment the way that Washington's been operating, especially since they got away with the Iraq War basically and everything in the Middle East.
Well, I mean, and another point about the news story too is while this is the context of that special or that AG's particular situation, right? That isn't disclosed as the reason for the special grand jury, right? So the special grand jury is for unknown reasons. It just happened to emerge around the time of this, so people are speculating that might be it.
I see.
My hunch is still that it might be about Fauci, and I hope that's the one, because that would be a great way to get him. I guess he could still insist on not testifying before a grand jury, but you don't get to plead the fifth there for something that you're, if you're being investigated for pleading the fifth when you weren't lawfully allowed. I'm guessing you can't plead the fifth in your testimony about it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you could just keep having cases about whether or not you're allowed to plead the fifth over and over again.
Nothing would surprise me at this point,
No.
I don't know.
We're going to find out today if he was allowed to plead the fifth over pleading the fifth over pleading the fifth of that congressional hearing in a subsequent series of grand juries. You bring him on the stand. What's he do? You can't have that. They wouldn't let him.
Do we know when this report is going to come out?
No, we don't know anything about the whole thing at all. We don't even know what it's for. I could be speculating at the wrong thing, but oh
man,
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it says a special grand jury allows anyone named in the report to testify and present witnesses for their defense. It typically runs for 18 months, but can finish its work sooner. or be extended in 6 months increments by a judge, as long as it doesn't exceed 36 months. Gosh, surely we won't have to wait that long.
Yep. It would also have the salutary effect of handing off the whatever activity they stuff into the courts, right? It would no longer be in the hands of a future politically controlled branch, regardless of how long it takes.
Interesting. Oh man, I don't know. Will we ever stop giving away our power is what I wonder. Why we're always asking the they for permission, you know?
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, it's kind of been subverted. I was talking to a coworker of mine about, how the USSR was, came into being with Stalin and everything, and being you know, a secretary of the the Communist Party, right? And how the CIA kind of went on the same path as it was supposed to be a newspaper for the president. But, you can put people in particular positions that are loyal to you. You can kind of subvert the power of the president. And that's what kind of happened, allegedly, allegedly. I'm just being facetious here, but,
Well, I mean,
over the last 8 years.
Yeah, you guys are familiar with the old John Birch Society argument, right? That the United States was actually already a communist country.
What?
Yeah. And that we actually live in sort of a global communist hegemony already.
Well, Marx did in the letter to Abraham Lincoln. Dun, dun, dun.
Well, I mean, and like you can actually apparently trace a lineage historically from the 1930s, 40s, and 50s original sort of coalition of communist United States operators, right, who wanted this to be a communist country.
Yeah, people in Washington.
Into a lineage
Wall Street.
that flows directly into the group of people currently in power, right?
Yeah.
Where like the grandchildren of the people who originally did it are still, 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon away from the presidency or every major university chair or whatever, right? Like, the whole slow march through the institutions idea, where they're going to slowly take over the country and then dismantle it from within.
British special intelligence operators involved in Rasputin's death, potentially.
Right.
Yeah, it's theory.
Right.
Never been proven.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting theory. I follow Gray Mirror on Substack. You guys ever follow Curtis Yarvin's writing?
I got a Substack, but I never really use it. So
he published a barn burner yesterday. It was like 4.5 hours to listen to. That just went through that whole historical lineage. It's actually pretty amazing. So worth a listen. If you guys have ever heard of Gray Mirror on Substack, go there. That's my full of tips and places to send you all today.
Yeah. Very interesting. What other hot topics are going on? Do you guys want to talk about?
Well, let's see. Let's spin the magic wheel of chaos and open a web browser.
Right. Well, I can't as easy as
here. Let me
too, because I can't log on to X on this browser. I have to be on
what's going on brownstone.org. Brownstone.org, by the way, guys, that's a great site.
Yeah. Brownstone.
I'm going to get out of here, guys.
Okay.
You got to get some sleep.
Well, I've been sick most of the week, so.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You'll get better.
You guys have a good one, okay?
Thank you.
I'll hold down the fort here. Glad you were here, man.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Hang with you later.
All right. Let's see. Later. What did... I can't even pronounce the name. Heidegger?
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 Yeah. Mean by only God can save us. Martin Heidegger was kind of an interesting cat, wasn't he? Although I don't think we want to get into him too much.
Yeah. Anthony Fauci and the collapse of scientific authority. More Fauci stuff. Everybody's talking about Fauci, Jared Kushner, and his ventilators. CDC planned quarantine camps.
What's deep capture? That one looks interesting. Oh, the administrative state's intellectual origins. This one looks interesting.
Where are you seeing this?
This isn't really news so much as it is just a cool article.
Oh,
It's
deep
titled
capture.
Deep Capture. Starts with Woodrow Wilson, the classic, and goes through Carter. Actually, it's kind of tracing the thing I was just talking about.
I was
It's
going to
interesting.
say study the study of the administration. There you go.
Although it probably includes the James Garfield assassination stuff too, right?
Mm.
Let's see. I'm just going to guess that's in there.
Democracy is too important to be left to voters. That's what Wilson said. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
That sounds like a Obama quote.
Well, I mean, exactly, right? I think that's the idea. The idea behind the notion that we've already been captured by this, and that the fact that we have to have these insurgent movements to keep things from falling apart has directly to do with the fact that the people destabilizing it are already running it.
So are you talking more about like the corporations?
More like
Some
the more like the professional managerial class and the media would be the people I'm talking about. Whoever runs the Ford Foundation, whoever runs uh, mass media channels, and whoever runs universities, coupled with politicians.
the 6 media channels that are probably most
Yeah.
likely all connected. And then that goes back to the BlackRock thing.
Right. The ones they can presently control, I guess, and they're still trying to squeeze control into the ones they can't. Right. Like their latest push to censor the internet has now become turning it into a public health issue. Right.
Mhm.
They're gonna say that for everybody's mental health or for the protection of kids, we need to lock the internet down.
That's
When
what
in
they're
reality,
they're already starting that about kids and screen time and,
right.
several countries, kids can't get on social media until a certain age
Well,
or
I mean, that's the starting point, right? But
Mhm.
the machinery itself, the way that it works, requires that you submit proof of age or you get fed content automatically filtered to kid side, right?
Mhm.
So really the problem is that it's going to immediately make it so that adults who want to get on the internet have to show ID.
How convenient.
Right, exactly. So now we can start building a database of who you are based on when you log in.
And what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a perfect way to make sure that anything that happens online can be turned into the kind of scandal that they would make of it on social media or on mainstream media. Right? Like they want to be able to show up at your door if they don't like what you say.
Mhm. They make
Um,
a thought, then the thought crimes start
right.
kicking in. That's where they're pushing, those flock cameras,
Mhm.
even in our little bitty town that has 10,000 people, there are 11 flock cameras. And
Mhm.
people came and started having conversations with city council and the police station and all that. The sheriff, I don't know if it was the sheriff or the police around here, but anyway, they were saying, oh, but that helped us because we were able to reclaim a trailer that got stolen because we
Mhm.
were able to track it and this and that.
Well, and there are some good things that fall out of it, right? Like
Mhm.
that's the downside to not having some solution that doesn't fix the problem while uh, creating a new one.
Mm.
Right now we have these cameras set up that can do some awesome stuff, right? Like find stolen public property that they would otherwise have to buy again using our money. That would suck.
Right.
Um, those kinds of things could be helpful, but the problem is you get this panopticon, right, as a side effect. And before you know it, the wrong person gets elected 20 years later after they forgot that it was to get trailers back.
Mhm.
Uh, and we've got a situation where they're going to start policing, like something stupid. Like imagine if they'd had flock cameras to enforce mask mandates, for
Oh
example,
my God. Yeah, that
right?
would be.
That would be a nightmare.
Mhm.
You'd hide inside instead of go out.
Mhm.
Which probably was mostly the effect of masks anyway. I know
I would
myself,
say, yeah.
like just to avoid having to deal with the confrontation when I refused to wear one, I would just not go places.
Yeah. And that's
Um,
what the motivation was, to divide all of us and not have
yeah,
us spend that time together where we could have some
right.
critical
So
thought conversations to realize what was really going on.
so yeah. So what I wonder is, can we have something that watches for crime, public safety, and stuff like that, that doesn't also create a database.
Mm.
Is it possible to build this thing in a way that doesn't turn it into a moral hazard for future political leadership? You know, I don't know if there's a way, but one of the ways that I saw people subverting flock that's worth it rather than just tearing them down is convince your city to shorten the retention window to 1 day.
Mm.
Um, they can always change it. They can always lie. So that's always a risk.
I was going to say, do you
But
trust them? Yeah.
right, but you can make it so that it is legally untenable to keep a record longer than a day, because that is the official policy, and it's a setting in the software, so you can, make sure that they've set the setting. Um, if you want to, for people out there who are trying to get them out of their communities, right? One really good way to get the ball rolling and turn it into not quite as much of a panopticon is to make them change the retention period.
That's a great
Most of it defaults to 30 days, I found out. So, and some cities have set it as high as 60. Um, and then other cities have, like I said, set it down to 1 day of retention after public pressure.
Wow. That's really interesting. That's an interesting thought about the amount of time that they would have to act on it.
When at Rivet, we always dealt with that directly, right? Because our privacy policy explicitly told the world that we were going to do minimal data retention and capture, which means we're only going to have data on you that we actually need, and we're only going to keep it for as long as we need it, and then it's gone, right? That was our official policy.
Okay.
So the longest we would ever have anything specific on anything anyone ever did was like 5 days. It was a whole business week. We'd keep it for 5 days just in case we ran into a problem and needed to troubleshoot. And then it would automatically throw itself out. So whenever we got requests, we'd be like, we'll send you everything we have, but it's sum total 0. And they would just say, we had that happen like twice, and they said, no thanks, don't worry about it. That was the end.
Really?
Yeah.
And they were cool with it because it's in your
policy. Yeah, it's our policy. Like we do. It was a security policy too, right? Like we weren't just trying to help people not get caught at stuff. We were trying to make it so that we weren't stewards of data that people.
So you weren't holding it, right?
Because otherwise, it makes you into a target for hackers.
Well, and if somebody it makes you complicit in whatever they were building on your platform, I guess.
Well, and also we couldn't, at the time we were starting up, afford the kind of infrastructure we would need to support in order to do that kind of interdiction, right? Like if we were getting requests like that on the daily, it would literally make it so we spent, a tiny amount of a few people's available time doing something rather than making the product better. We wouldn't have been able to afford to do both at once. So it ended up working out, I think, for the best, because we proved the policy can work. We never had any any incidents with people misusing Rivet other than to try to steal more capacity than we gave away for free by creating a bunch of new accounts. But
interesting. Why? So you do it for free, but then
we had like a monthly. But we had a monthly free amount for everybody who signed up for the free account. And some people, instead of signing up for the paid tier when they needed more, would just open a new account instead and use 2 accounts. But but we could catch it real easy. So
that's good.
It didn't last.
Yeah.
There were a few people we let do that though, because they were friends, and we knew knew they were doing it, and
they were building good stuff with it.
Right, they were building open source and not getting paid, so we didn't want to charge them. But
this has got to be the only space where so many people work for free with the hope of the future.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is a really unusual thing about the blockchain space, and so many people are so passionate about it that they, will suffer, take one for the team, keep working. Yeah.
Well, that's the goal with AI for me, I think, too. Like, I think we need to bring AI to a place where it's that democratized, where people can benefit from it openly, right? Like, where it's not just people who have the technical capacity or the resources or whatever to use it. That it should be something that anybody could get access to. I think that's the only way you really make it a benefit for humanity.
Yeah. So you don't see it as a negative. I have friends that homeschool, and
Mhm.
they just won't use AI. They won't help their
Yeah,
child.
I don't agree with that.
To me, it's like, telling them to never pick up a computer or
Right.
think of it as a tool,
To me, it's probably there was probably something similar around the time like the quill pen and an inkwell were replaced by the ballpoint, right? Like
Right.
there are parents who are just like, now you're using the quill.
Right.
Like those ballpoint pens are an abomination. They're going to lazy society up,
That's
right?
right.
That happens every time we get an
It
advance in
does. It
communication
really,
technology.
yeah.
Like the internet was doing it first, then smartphones, then social media,
Mhm.
then gig economy, then I think even blockchain for a while was accused of dumbing down society, and then oh, that's right, the degens. People made fun of the
Oh,
memes
yeah,
and
yeah.
right, the right click brigade, and now we've got people complaining about AI slop
AI
uh,
swap.
and the degradation of the human mind when it's not forced to be a calculator and a memory system, which it isn't, right? Like human
Right.
beings don't primarily walk around recalling things from memory actively from rote
Well,
memorization.
but that's what traditional government
Mhm.
schools, as Sean would call them,
Right.
was training people in that
Right. The
mode.
Prussian system was designed to make citizens, not
Right.
smart people.
Right. Not
Yeah.
critical thinkers. And critical
Right.
thinkers are, creating. They're
Mhm.
just like you would create a prompt. They're
Yeah.
starting the thought with a question, even.
Right. Well, I mean,
Where
and AI also lets you produce more and bigger, right? So
Mm,
let's say you have an assignment that's a project at school. You could go one of two ways. You can narrow the project and make it something that someone can manually do by hand and then outlaw anything that makes it work faster. Or you
right.
can give them such a big assignment that they have to use AI to get it done on time. It
And
could
that
be
doesn't
like
mean that they won't.
organize a 70-page report with empirical data and
Mm.
anecdote and prose and give me an executive summary. Teach people how to write really big things early. Why not?
Well, and it doesn't mean that they won't learn the content or have
Right.
a gainful learning experience.
The only way to do it well is actually to learn what you're reading from it as you go. If you let AI think for you, you're doing it wrong, right? Like it's
Mm,
supposed to think with you. So get come to it with a thought and then stick with that thought. If you can do that, then you have to read everything. You
and
know.
as it's bringing
Um,
you answers or direction or another
mhm.
question about which way to go, you just
Yeah.
stay engaged with that.
Try it. Yeah. Try asking it for better questions rather than answers, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think it's the next tool.
Yeah.
I don't know about where it ends, or is it the next NFT thing? And ends up getting misused from its original intention, and so isn't
It's
as
gonna be
effective.
something way different. I can tell you that. Um, I'll tell you more about this after we're off because I don't want to
Okay.
reveal too
Yeah.
much detail. But
Yeah.
what
No.
what I've been uncovering is, well, let's just say we've been scratching the surface level of the capabilities of AI and getting a lot of the negative effects of AI from the fact that we're doing that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you're finding a way to turn that tide.
Right. For example, who needs data centers? A human brain operates on 20 watts a day. Why should you need a data center full of GPUs and storage to run an AI when computers already think faster than we do? It should be actually really cheap to run an artificial intelligence.
Interesting. That is really interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. I know we're having a little bit of a shorter one today, but we've got tons of people out. So please send all your positive energy and prayers and happy thoughts to all of the crew that's not here, that are working away or have um, issues, other things going on. And I think
Hey, sorry,
yesterday was Dragon Day. Did you notice that? I tagged you in a post.
Dragon Day,
It
like
was,
the
it,
official day of dragons.
yes, it was
That's pretty
Dragon
cool.
Day. So I hit the whole post up. I was just saying goodbye to everybody and
Oh,
gonna wrap
gotcha.
it up. So you and
That
I
sounds
can
good.
chat, and then
Yeah.
we'll hit everybody next week. Hopefully, I am the Emperor will be back with all of our regulars. So
Yep. If not, we'll just play a video.
There you go.
Like when your teacher's hungover in grade school.
Put a movie in. Put a movie in.
Mhm.
All right. You guys take care. Bye.